Okay, welcome to another edition of Carnivore Radio. I'm your host, Jeffrey Sherman, who's under the weather, but getting better. Not that Chris really cares. And we have Chris Calandra in Studio B, and we have a lot in the news. But something that, do you have Netflix?
I do.
Okay, this has intrigued me for, God, time flies. That sucks, time flies. Oh, my God. 30 years I read the book called Stranger Beside Me. It was written by Anne Rule, who's now a crime novelist or whatever, or author. And she worked at a rape crisis center alongside Ted Bundy. And he was just a regular, they were friends. And the book, I can't say enough, the book was one of the coolest books I have ever read. It puts you in the mind of Ted Bundy.
Okay.
I can't even explain it. So Netflix has a show, just came out, is under it's their biggest show right now.
Okay.
And it's called The Bundy Tapes.
All right. Have you seen it yet?
I've seen the first episode and a half. And it's about two guys who did it in 1980, just recorded Bundy in prison. Mm-hmm. But there's a documentary involved in it as well. They were getting nowhere because he basically kind of denied things. I don't remember. I don't really know. It was like nondescript. So then this guy had a great idea that says, okay, Ted, you have a degree in psychology. Maybe you can help me out and tell me about the mind of this killer. And then he just completely opened up. It's actually chilling because, I read a book on serial killers. One of them was a profiler. I forgot his name. It was 25 years ago. And good book. He's the one who started profiling. And you know what, the one I couldn't really read? It was just so twisted.
What was that?
Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer?
So twisted. But the thing about Bundy is he's this good-looking, articulate guy. Who's the guy? The clown guy. Gacy. He looked... Yeah, he could pass for a plumber or whatever he was. But he could also... Yeah, that guy could kill someone. He's yeah, okay. But Bundy, you'd never know. How twisted he is. That's twisted. 25, maybe 30 people he killed. Who knows how many people he killed?
Yeah, that's remarkable. I'll have to check that out on Netflix.
It's really amazing. I think that would be a great occupation, actually.
To be a serial killer?
Yeah, to be a criminal profiler.
Yeah, but how do you not get twisted yourself? What a grim... I understand there's the hero element,
Chris,
but that's...
something? I agree 100% because I would love to be a detective. I think I would be fantastic at it. But seeing the dark side of life, it's not for me.
Yeah, I like being in my little safe box.
That's right. Going to crime scenes. No, I'll pass on that one.
Sure.
I'm not. It's all good. So, do you watch Netflix at all?
Yeah, quite a bit.
What do you watch on it?
What do I watch on it? Joel and I just watched a series. There's a British series called, I think it was Bodyguard.
Okay.
And I am drawing a complete blank.
I'll tell you another. I'm full of great suggestions.
Yeah.
This one is amazingly good. It was a PBS series.
Yeah.
They do good stuff. You got to be on,
Yeah.
They do good. Nazi mega weapons.
Yeah, you've told me about that before.
Because they have what do you call it? I forget the exact name. Forensic historian, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And they go to where the thing was built or where the guards were, and he goes, "Can you believe you're overlooking this?" And or here's where it was built. It's awesome.
That is good.
Very good.
So I just thought I saw two series recently. One is Love, which is kind of a dopey sitcom kind of thing, and another one is another British kind of sci-fi show, Sense8. So I thought of a few things. I also saw a documentary, Finding Vivian Maier, which was kind of cool.
Who's Vivian Maier?
She was this woman who was a nondescript, never married, didn't have children, and served as a nanny for decades in the New York City area. and then passed away. And it turns out that she was this prolific photographer and had taken thousands and thousands of pictures of various scenes just in and around New York as she went to the park or went shopping, and very skilled photographer. And somebody unearthed and has been cataloging all of her pictures, and she's quite talented. And it's this documentary that tries to put the pieces of her life back together. Seemingly nobody had ever seen any of these pictures before. It was kind of cool.
That's what I think some people are going to say about me. They'll unearth Carnivore Radio and say, "Oh my God,
the guy was unbelievably talented,"
and nothing happened. Anyway, so there it is. So yeah, I think another interesting, and certainly you have a young daughter and a son, so it's probably not anything too earth-shattering to you, but it's kind of crazy that how irrelevant TV has become to young people. They don't even watch it. Like things that you might think are hip, like it's a dying series, I get it, but like Big Bang or something you think, no, they don't.
Yeah, they're fewer and far between. Like Big Bang is a very successful show.
It's run its course, but
it's run its course. But who? That's really the only one.
I don't even know any series. Do you?
There's hardly any. No.
I mean, I know them, but I don't watch it.
I don't think so. You know, the cable new. You know, like I watch more series on say Showtime and Netflix than I do cable TV, and I think that's pretty common. I could think of just a handful of shows on traditional network TV that I tune in and watch with any regularity now.
Do you know what show I thought was great? Was fantastic. 2.5 Men.
At its height, but I mean that was a dirty show, man. They really pushed the envelope with the sexual content.
Amazingly so, but I also think when they had Ashton Kutcher on, that was awful.
That was the classic jumping the shark.
Wasn't it?
Yes.
That was just absolutely... I forgot the guy's name. In real life, they're friends. Charlie Sheen, him, the guy, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Oh, God.
You mean Sean Penn?
Yeah, he would have been good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Sean, the cousin, comes in. But whatever was not good at all. And the other thing about, like, before we get to more of the news items, you know... I think in my old age, I have a kind heart. Like if I see someone falling on hard times, I feel bad for them. I really do. You know, whatever I do.
Yeah.
So my point is, like Charlie Sheen, and I saw this. You're probably too young for this documentary on the drummer of the Who, Keith Moon, who just like drank himself and had everything going. I just don't feel that sorry for you.
Okay. But you do feel sorry for Charlie Sheen?
No.
But I suspect that Charlie Sheen will pass away at like 93 or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, he had everything.
Yeah.
No, he had everything, and he just, like, peed it away. I mean, he's AIDS now.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything on TV in a long while.
I think he's untouchable. He's radioactive, even in Hollywood.
Really?
And I think, I'll be judgmental for a second. I think the stigma of AIDS is still there.
Yeah. And so his stepbrother...
So he can't be like the wild bachelor, even though he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work if people
know you. But
he's
probably still tearing it up. And you think he's calmed down at all?
I heard he's sober. Yeah, all I know is they've made monumental gains in AIDS. But that's a disease I'm sure you don't want. I mean, having it in my body would freak me out.
Sure. So what happened to his stepbrother, Emilio Estevez? He hasn't done anything in 100 years either.
Well, I think he's a producer.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I don't
know either.
He did some show like on the couch with Charlie Sheen about Charlie, or I don't know. Charlie's a psychiatrist. I don't know, whoever. It didn't do that well. But
okay.
Anyway. But yeah, I thought that was a good show. I mean, what other shows have you watched and or were fans of in the last 10 years? My
absolute favorite show that's currently running now is Billions, which is a Showtime series.
Yeah, I'm talking regular network.
Regular network TV. I am a huge fan of Big Bang Theory. I think that show is hysterical.
Yes. That's the only one I know.
That's about it. I watched the first couple of seasons of This Is Us recently.
This Is Us.
And it's a drama, and it was good, and then it completely turned me off. I don't know. It's in its third or fourth season.
There's a show.
I don't know.
It was a little bit older. Revenge, I thought was cool. That was a really cool show. and I just can't really think of any. Just like I don't even think, just to end the discussion or close this part of the discussion, is I can't even think of, or when I watch TV, I don't even go to the networks. Like I don't even go to like 3, 6, 8. I just don't.
So we were talking before. I had the day off today. I've been traveling quite a bit. I was out west last week. This week I was in Florida. So I had today off. My wife and I kind of hung out and we watched a little TV together. And I had recorded, DVR'd a few episodes of Seinfeld, and I've been watching them here and there. Oh my God, that show is hysterical.
That show is 25 years old, and it is even kids.
Yes.
As a teacher, love it.
Love it.
That is brilliant.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. I love everything about it. And who do you think makes the show?
I mean, all of them. I mean, how could you argue with Kramer? He's just a legendary character, but even Newman and the other people that are on just occasionally, like Babu, and the show is just brilliant. And I agree with you. I was with a friend of mine. He's 21, just recently graduated college, and he is the biggest Seinfeld you could ever imagine. And
I have a mental block on who's the guy who worked for the Yankees.
Oh, George Costanza.
He's the one who.
Oh my God.
He's the one who. The thing I love about George is that all the stuff he does are self-induced. Like okay, like at one time, okay, he's dating this very smart woman that says like do an IQ test or whatever. If he just took the IQ test, everything would be. But this elaborate plan to do absolutely nothing, and it's just hysterical.
It is. The show is amazingly brilliant, so very funny. It stands the test of time, yet it is very simple. It's not grotesque. It's not overly sexual. It's not outlandish. The brilliance is really just the simplicity, because it is a show about nothing. And that's what it is, but man,
I hate to be like a killjoy, but I think the whole platform of situation comedies, there's not a lot out there. They're pretty bad. I mean, I could write. I'm just being honest. Like I've seen a couple, like just flicking through. It's just a lot of sexual themes. That's easy to write.
Sure.
The old lady is having an affair with 22-year-old or whatever, and someone doesn't know about it, and it's just kind of like okay,
sure,
well, it's obvious humor.
So I don't think we were going to plan on talking about this, so you could shelve this if you want. But I listened to a podcast this week, and they were talking about kind of the death of comedy, because in today's hypersensitive world, political correctness, in my opinion, running amok, that perhaps some of the TV shows have difficulty because there's so many areas that you cannot go near and cannot touch.
Oh, well, talking about Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld and others. And Jerry Seinfeld, I assume he's a liberal, so I can't play college campuses.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I think, something, there was a book long time ago. I would think I was in 6th grade when I read it. It was the book of that time, Future Shock. And I remember the
Alvin Toffler.
He also wrote Third Wave. And he was like, something like, he says about being shocked, you can go to another country and be shocked, but you're going home. Okay, and you're in a different culture. But future shock is when it's your world, there's nowhere to go, and you're still shocked. I'm glad you brought it up, because what is at the root of political correctness? I think it's a thought police. I think it's a way.
It's absolutely thought police, and it's at the extreme, it's an infringement on the First Amendment, and it's a lack of understanding of other people and simply focusing on how you feel about something is sad.
Yeah, but I think it's even bigger than. I think it's like political correctness is only tailored for certain groups. Like I think you could say white male Christians. You could still say you could do a comedy show on a campus. It wouldn't be funny, but and trash white male Christians, middle-aged Christians all day long, and I think there'd be no repercussions.
Yeah, absolutely. And on college campuses, and I mean, we're on one of the great college campuses in the country, just an amazing institution here at Wesleyan. But my understanding is when they have comedians on, and this is classic, right? I mean, when I was in school, they had comedians on campus, probably same thing.
Yeah.
And, now that they have to sign all of these papers saying, I'm not going to joke about this, I'm not going to go there, I'm not going to do that. And that just seems, I don't know.
I really, and we'll invite our callers to call in about
Please.
Political correctness, because it is, forget about left and right, liberal, conservative. I believe it's dangerous. 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Political correctness. What is the root? Well, everything has a incubation, has a starting point. I know what time frame do you think the starting point was of political correctness?
I don't know. I mean, starting point, I don't know. I mean, I graduated college in 1992, and I don't remember any of these speech codes on campus or anything like that. There was a sensitivity to, different groups that had been mistreated and oppressed, and there was that vibe. But so I would say after that at some point, but I think since the Obama administration, I think it's gone into hyperdrive.
It has gone into hyperdrive under Obama. But again, we invite our callers to call in 860-685-7700, 685-7700. What do you think of political correctness? What's the origins of it? Here's what I believe is absolutely true. I believe that happened actually, and everything socially is like a frog in water. You don't notice it at first.
Okay.
I think its starting point was under the Reagan administration, where liberals who had enjoyed maximum power, supreme power from the New Deal,
okay,
all the way to the 1980s, right? And they were out of power, and they couldn't handle it, so they started initiating not as a strategy, but just through kind of like a general wave, the whole idea of political to squelch thought. I believe it's true. I believe George H.W. Bush formally called it political correctness like around the time you were getting out of college, 91.
All right.
And I think, again, when you were in college, it was probably about the same time, 10 years difference, about the same time that I was in college. Anything kind of went. Yours might have been a little more sensitive, but, but the soup was bubbling under your feet.
Sure.
I think now that I think the days, I don't know if it's even retrievable, of having discourse on campus, unbridled discourse. I don't know if it's ever going to come back. Do you think it's ever going to come back?
I think it will come back because these things go in trends.
I think this has been going on for 30 years. And I really believe the train has left the station. I believe. Yeah, I mean, you could be right. I'm not saying I'm right.
Trends are followed by counter trends, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be any change in our immediate future. And I'm thinking too, the comedian Kevin Hart, who was set to host the Oscars. Very funny, successful, well-known comedian, and he got in a jam because of something that he tweeted out, a joke. I don't know if it was 6, 8, 10 years ago, and he got bounced off of hosting the Oscars for a joke he made a while ago. And candidly, I think it's a little bit, I don't love the joke, but I don't think it was it was god-awful joke. Plus, it was a joke. That's the point. You're supposed to laugh about real-life stuff, and it could go too far. But anyway, he got bounced from the Oscars, and now they don't have a host.
It's kind of wild. So we do have a caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What do you say?
Well, I am a Jamaican, number one. Let me just start at the top.
That's good.
And I never heard the term political correctness until I came to the United States of America.
And how long have you been in the United States for?
Over 20 years.
Okay, good.
I think the question is where it starts.
Yes.
I don't know. But what I do know It's really a deception in my mind, and I think the politicians use it to their advantage, and they use it quite well. And what it does, it helps to divide people.
Oh, definitely. It's divide and conquer,
it's a deception, meaning you're not actually speaking the truth. And if we're talking about bringing people together, I don't see where you can bring people together with deceptions. The only thing in my mind that I think will unite people is when you speak truth and rights.
So can I?
And everyone is not going to agree with you on any terms. It don't matter what you speak. But the closest we're ever going to come, if we're going to be united as one people, is when you talk truth and right. Because ultimately, that's what life is. Everybody is looking for the truth. That's what I believe, and that's what I know. Every single person on the planet of this earth is looking for one thing, the truth.
Caller, that's a brilliant statement. I really want to ask you a question because it seems to me, and I think you touched on this a moment ago, it seems to me that some of what people get outraged about and supposedly offended by, to me, they're not being genuine about it because the bar of what people get offended by has gotten lower and lower to the point that certain people, I think, like you said, use it to their advantage, and they're really just faking their outrage. That's my perception. What do you think?
But that's where it's going to lead. You're pretty much saying the same thing that I'm saying. That's where it's going to lead. In other words, when you lie and lie and lie, and then people find out that what you were telling them is lie. And like I said, the premise is that we all are looking for the truth. You looking for the truth, all of us. In the face of this earth, we have one thing in common. We're all looking for the truth.
Can I ask you a question?
And when you have people that being deceptive and telling you lies, and eventually you get to find the truth, then that's what it's gonna create.
Got you. Now, you've been here 10 years. Do you see? It's a good perspective, Chris. I think the caller would have a good perspective.
Heck yeah.
And the last 10 years, what's your take? Do you see it getting building and building? You got here 10 years ago. It was something you were aware of. Has it become a lot bigger since you've been here 10 years? Do you see it
become a bigger situation?
Yes.
I didn't hear you too clear.
Yeah, has it become more pervasive, more of a factor?
Oh yes. It's like anything else. It's like an additive. You start something and it becomes like an epidemic. You get away with it, what you're going to do? I mean, if you start something and you can get away with it, constantly getting away with it, then it sort of create a wave. And that's what we've been seeing now leading up to even Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, I've never heard one person lie so much in all my life like this president we have.
I think many people would feel the same. And I thank you for the call.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, caller. That was a great perspective. I'm so glad he called in.
I think it's a great subject, and I invite other callers to call in at 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Talking about right now political correctness, and I don't want to, we don't need to get to the political aspects of it, but, I think it's damaged the discourse, and it's not a profound statement, in America, and I think it started out as kind of a joke 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Something, political correctness, whatever. I think it's dangerous. I think it's a way to really squelch speech. And also, I hate to say, you see it in politics, as the caller was saying, that if you don't agree with a political view, you don't debate. So there's no real debating of the issue. It's he or she's a racist,
sexist, misogynist,
homophobic,
white supremacist.
So once you say that about someone, discussion over.
Yeah, and the right does it too. Well, you could knee jerk say, well, you're just a socialist, or so both sides do it. But the media is a huge component of that because they celebrate this stuff.
Here's another aspect, I think, of political correctness. Again, I invite our callers to call in at 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Yes, I think that it's another way of also dumbing down America because you don't really get a balanced scorecard on any kind of policy agendas. It's all, you have an initial discussion and then it becomes a heated debate on who's the more racist.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Right? So kind of interesting. So anyway, invite our last caller if you want to call in on this subject as we're going to move on is 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Obviously, the big thing in today's news, Chris, is the temporary budget deal. I think Trump agreed to fund the government for another 3 weeks, but there's no deal for the wall. So winners and losers.
Well, certainly the people that'll get paid that were caught in the crossfire, the government workers that were furloughed, that's a win for them, and that can be celebrated. You'd certainly have to say that, at least at this moment, Nancy Pelosi, who just became the Speaker of the House, gets a win because she's played hardball from the get-go.
I actually think for the master, the art of the deal, he got played. Because essentially, he flinched first. That's a fact.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true.
It's like you're pushing me on something. I say, all right, Chris, I'll give you a month, whatever.
Sure.
I've already agreed to your terms.
Yes.
To a degree.
That's the way it seems now. I mean, you'd have to put, I think, Donald Trump in the loss column. I mean, he played hard just like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, both were playing hardball politics with the furloughed workers caught in the middle. But yeah, I mean, he seems to have blinked first. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't change in 3 weeks. But if you're asking me today, I think Nancy Pelosi wins. I think Mitch McConnell wins. I think and I'm not a fan of Mitch McConnell, but he stayed out of the limelight, let everybody stake out his position. I think he stayed back. And then once he came in, which was this week, and he brought 2 votes to the floor, he enabled a situation that we got a deal. So I think he's a winner. Nancy Pelosi's a winner. Donald Trump is a loser. The government furloughed workers are certainly a winner. And anyone in America that's looking for greater border security, they lose out because they didn't get what they wanted.
Okay, so why is the new Democratic Party so anti-border? They went from a party that was basically maybe a little more liberal on the border, but not that much, to they're pretty much open borders.
They're pretty much open borders, and as recently as 2013 and certainly back in 2006, a lot of what mainstream Democrat politicians said on this subject sound an awful like what Donald Trump says. And that may seem strange, but go to YouTube and look at Chuck Schumer's comments, Hillary Clinton's comments,
okay, so
Barack Obama's comments.
I agree with that. 860-685-7700, 685-7700 if you'd like to comment on the Democratic Party going from a party that believed in borders to now no longer believing in borders. So, Chris, I'm going to ask you and our callers at 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Everything happens for a reason. That's one thing I do know. A broken clock is right twice a day, and I'm right on this. So please tell me, what is the reason why the Democratic Party went from a country that believed in national sovereignty and borders to a party that does not?
Because the political party exists to gain power, and they have determined that with the increasing Latino population in this country that at this point votes Democrat, that having a steadier and steadier diet of new Latino voters will enable them to have power in the future as well as in the present. I agree with that,
but it's not even Latino voters. I think they would be diametrically opposed to a merit-based immigration system. That goes 100% on what the Democratic Party would want. They want a dependency class.
Agreed.
I think they're scared to death that they've lost or are losing the dependency class possibly in the African-American community as more and more get into the workplace and become more economically independent. They're scared to death of that.
I would love if there's a caller out there to call and not talk about how bad Trump is, but just explain how the idea of securing the border, having a wall, choosing who comes into this country and having some control over who enters into country is problematic. I would love just an honest debate about that.
I would love that. Is a great question. I would love a caller, and we'll give you all the time you want. Tell us why having as you say, a country with borders, having a more of a merit-based immigration system, not having open access to illegal immigrants. Why is that problematic?
And I will say, too, that sometimes the media portrays people that want a wall and want border security are anti-immigration. I will tell you I am not, and most of the people that I know that feel the way that I do are not. Thomas Friedman, the very influential New York Times columnist, wrote a very influential book, The World is Flat. For years and years and years, and this is a liberal guy, Jeff, for years and years and years, here's what he said on the subject. He said he wanted a big wall and a big gate so that we could let people into this country and carry on the tradition of welcoming and embracing immigrants. I fully subscribe to that theory, but you need the wall so that you could control who comes in. You don't want the criminals to come in. You don't want bad people to come in. And candidly, I don't want people that are going to just live off the welfare system in this country. It's a great country. I want to care for our citizens, but we do have to be careful about who we let in. We want them to be productive members of American society.
860. Good. I like that in my line.
Thank
very
you.
good. Yep, very good.
I sound like a politician.
860-685-7700. 685-7700. We're talking about borders.
So you take, like previously, the caller. I don't know his immigration status at all, but he described that he came here some 20 years ago from Jamaica. You know, I love that he's in this country. I love that he's a part of the fabric of society, and I assume he's in Connecticut, so he's part of my community. I love that. I am not anti-immigration, but I am anti-illegal immigration, and I'm not fond of turning away from people that are just breaking into the country.
Yes, well, I actually probably am not as big on open borders or immigration. I think that we've had so many immigrants over the last 20 years, we need time to digest. What do you think of that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, in our history, there's times that we have closed our border to give the country time to assimilate the immigrants into society. And at times the country did that. We were maybe a little bit more overtly racist. I'm not saying we always did it right, but the country has done that before. I would be okay with that, but I'm mostly interested in a smart immigration policy, not open borders.
Okay, we have a caller. Caller, are you there?
Hi.
Yes.
So I taught ESOL, which is English speakers of other languages, for about 14 years.
Yep.
And the people, and it's a silent group, but, you know, in small groups, like a comfortable class, they're very newly arrived immigrants who had to go through the system. You know, it takes about 4 to 5 years in some cases for their visas to be approved to come here. And they're very upset about people just coming in over the borders without following the process.
I would agree. I mean, I know many people that like really talented people. In
Yes.
fact, when I first got out of college, I lived on the second floor with another guy and the guy who owned the multifamily house was an African guy who was an accountant. His name was Willie. I still remember. Great
Right.
guy. And he was still waiting and waiting and waiting for his citizenship.
Crazy.
Meanwhile, people can just come in, and I guess my question, caller, we don't even know what happens. What's behind it? Why is the Democratic Party, who used to believe in a logical immigration system, why are they now for open borders? Because that seems to be what they are.
As you said, they want, you know, they want a feeding system of voters, and they see the Hispanic, you know, all these people coming in over the borders, entering into the system, you know, of certain benefits that we offer.
So what you're really saying, caller, is they are willing to undermine the very security and economic foundation of America for their own political interests. That's really what it is.
Absolutely. I had a doctor from the Ukraine, a doctor, who was working as a gardener because he still needed to pass one component. And he worked as a gardener for 5 years. Can you imagine a surgeon working with his hands that way? And he was very vocal about it. He said it took him 10 years to come here and then another 3 years to bring his family over. Yeah. And he was outraged.
And last question before I let you go is what do you think? What do you think of a merit-based immigration? So from all over the world, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Europe.
Yes.
So why is the Democratic Party so against a merit-based immigration? I mean, that would obviously help America.
Because it takes time, and they don't want to wait.
Do you think the Democratic Party is opposed to a merit-based system because at the heart of it they want dependency class? They don't want people that can actually have skills.
Yes, because the people that are coming over and they're waiting 2 or 3 years, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're a professional class, and they're not going to be using the system.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the call. 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Chris, I thought what she said was profound because what do you think? That the Democratic Party is willing to undermine the security, both political and economic security and social security of the United States for their own best interest?
I think that's true. So I don't know if you followed this, Jeff, but in L.A., the teachers union went on strike in the L.A. School system. So I find that a little unusual that they would go on strike because they wanted a raise and they wanted smaller class sizes. Well, the L.A. school system, Jeff, has a little bit of a trouble because there are a lot of illegal immigrants in the school system, and the teachers struck. They want smaller classes. Well, they want smaller classes and they want a raise, yet they're welcoming in people that I would suggest are not paying enough for the taxes to justify them being in a school, and the L.A. budget's a complete mess.
A disaster. Okay, caller, we have a return caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead. What say you? Our Jamaican friend. Go ahead.
So what is your question?
The question was, why is the Democratic Party, who once believed in borders and a strategic or logical immigration system that people, as I assume you did, had to wait in to get their citizenship, why are they now for basically a open borders situation where anyone can come with no checks or balances? Why did they go for?
That's not what I am hearing. I from all the speakers of the Democratic Party, I hear they say they are for closed borders too. They just believe in a different system, which I personally am with them on that,
and
because $5 billion is a lot of money.
What is
and the next thing is, who's going to pay that $5 billion? Because Trump said Mexico is going to pay, which I'm pretty sure nobody believes that Mexico is going to pay that money.
No, I never believe
so that's going to be left on the back of people like me and probably you. I don't know if you work or what have you. So I'm overtaxed as it is right now, and I don't want to, be part of paying $5 billion to put up a wall. I'm pretty sure a system can develop that costs much less, as they're mentioning with drones and all of that. And the next thing is that I listen to the studies. I'm not doing studies, but I listen to the people that do studies. And they say more people come across the Canadian border than the south border. So why isn't there a wall for the Canadian border too? I mean, there's a lot of questions to be asked. Why is not one putting up on the Canadian border too?
So let me ask you a question. Do you think there's more bad actors coming in from the southern border or the northern border?
It's not me. I'm just saying.
No, I understand, but that's the question I have. The reason why the issue on the southern border exists, caller, is because there's too many bad actors, people that we do not want to have in the country coming across the southern border. Not all, but some, and that's why we need to secure the border. But thanks for calling back.
So you're saying no bad actors coming from the border up north?
I didn't say none. Here, listen.
No, I'm just asking you because...
Listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah, go
There
ahead.
are many more bad actors coming from the southern border than the northern border. It's not an all or none thing, but there's way more trouble at the southern border. Go on YouTube and see what's happening with certain groups charging our border and causing trouble at the southern border. That's the issue. And that's why we need to secure the
I
border.
agree with you because I don't have no proof to what you just said. But
I understand.
All I'm saying, a wall for $5 billion seemed like a whole lot to me.
Okay,
And,
I think actually, caller, that's a good argument, and I appreciate your call. I do.
Yes.
Thank you. The only retort I would say 860-685-7700, 685-7700, talking about border security or the lack thereof, the wall, all that fun stuff. If you want to give us a call, you can give us a call at 860-685-7700. You're listening to WESU 88.1 FM in Middletown, and you're listening to Carnivore Radio. The views of Carnivore Radio are not the views of WESU or Wesleyan University, are they, Chris?
They are not. They're ours, and we want to be respectful. I'm glad he called back. But the idea that the northern border should be treated the same as the southern border, personally, respectfully, I think is a silly comparison because Canada has similar rules that as we do, whereas in the southern border, we have a lot of people coming from other countries, not just Mexico, but Guatemala, El Salvador, Colombia, and so on. That makes the southern border issue completely different than the northern border issue.
Okay, let's see what our caller has to say. You're talking to the carnivores.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yes, you're talking to the carnivores. What say you?
Yeah, the $5.7 billion is a drop in a bucket compared to what we pay for social programs.
It's a rounding error. All of a sudden, Nancy Pelosi, who couldn't spend, she couldn't spend enough money, is worried about $5 billion. Are you kidding me? The cost of social programs for the people coming over is like 10 times that, isn't it? You don't have to be a jerk.
Yeah, it's right. Well, it depends on who you listen to. I heard as low as $110 billion to $180 billion. So even if it's at $110 billion, that's a heck of a lot more than what it costs to reduce the traffic and redirect it.
Okay, so here's a quintessential question. This is it. How did the Democratic Party, essentially the Democratic Party, or I'll even use the entrenched power base in Washington, I think that's even more accurate, the entrenched power base in Washington, how they go from believing in secure borders, relatively secure borders, that is, to open borders, anything goes over the last 10 years. How did that happen?
I really don't know. It was never really an issue until Trump came in, and I'm not defending everything Trump's done.
I think it was
I like what he's done to the most part, but nobody's perfect.
No one is perfect, and I agree with that, but I actually think, as I said before, and I just want your comment before we let you go, I think it's really the crux of the matter is that the liberal Democratic Party has lost middle America, and in order to survive, they know, it's not a matter of debate, that they need many unskilled, dependent people to fill their voting booths. What do you think of that?
I agree 100% on that.
Thank you very much for the call.
Thank you, caller.
Yes.
So can I tell you a quick little personal story that relates to this?
860-685-7700, 685-7700, if you'd like to continue the conversation on border security. Yes, Chris.
So my brother fell in love and married a Mexican woman, Mexican citizen. They got married. It'll be 2 years this summer. And he has been unable to get her into this country. And this, to me, is the highlight of how completely screwed up the system is. He married her. It's a legal marriage. He cannot get her into this country legally. But yet, if she traveled through Mexico and crossed our border, the Democrats would be completely in favor of it.
Isn't the real issue? Why are you going through all this nonsense about making it difficult? It's all a charade because you can just walk across the border, can't you?
Exactly. So it would seem that you would want to allow somebody that is married to a U.S. citizen, that it wouldn't have to be such a bureaucratic nightmare and so time consuming. But yet there are certain people in this country, mostly Democrats, that love the idea that somebody could get across our border, evade border control, and be welcomed with open arms in our society. It's insane.
We lost a caller, 860.
Oh, they're calling back.
Hey, this I'm going to say 860 685-7700, 685-7700. I think the whole thing of having that whole immigration is a charade.
It is. So, you have that instance, the story you had told about people that get educated in this country go to our institutions, our wonderful higher education system. We send them packing. We don't provide enough foreigners to take our high-end jobs that technology companies in Silicon Valley need, yet we want people to be able to come into this country unchecked, cross our border, and celebrate that they've arrived here even though they didn't play by the rules. I don't see why that is defendable. I really don't.
We'll see. Let's see what our caller has to say. Caller, you're talking to the carnivores.
Yes, thank you for taking the call. I'm glad I could get through.
No problem.
I have a question. I've been listening to this talk, and it is very interesting, but I have a question that deserves a little historical perspective.
Go
that
ahead.
I think I'd like to hear a little dialogue on, because I just don't know if it's true or not. But the United States has used Central and Latin America as their backyard for decades.
Okay.
Supporting dictators and meddling in voting and
No question.
changing
No doubt about
rulers
it.
and
Yeah,
whatever. But
no.
this is the question. I think it has a lot to do with immigration, but I'm not sure. Because these immigrants can be a product of that.
I think that's it. You have a great point, caller. Yes, we did meddle for 100 years in Latin America, and because of that, not in total, but in some degree, you have many failed states economically and politically, and that's why we have, to some degree, a border crisis on the southern border. I agree with you.
Well, it's mind-boggling, because I'm seeing this buildup of families as being a product of this meddling, but it's difficult to get a historical perspective on it because it may not pertain.
No, I think it does pertain. And where do you think this all ends? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think Trump just blinked?
No, we need control at the border. There's no two ways about it.
Do you think
because
most
we don't
Americans
need to
agree with that?
Well, I do agree with it because, look, there's difficulties from people coming from other countries that just aren't aligned the way that we live. We don't know who's coming in, and
Could I
that's
ask you
what
a
the
question,
problem
caller,
is.
before I let you go? Which party do you think it helps, the Republicans or the Democrats, that have, as you said, many low-skilled and kind of people that are going to be difficult to assimilate? Which party do you think it helps?
I think that, sir, you just got me in a tight situation here. I'd like to say the Republicans, but I'm not a Republican, okay? But I also understand that the Democrats are lagging behind in this leadership to create a positive situation there. So I don't know what to think.
Well, I thank you for your honesty, and I thank you very much for the call.
Thanks.
So, yes.
Yeah, I think he brings up a great point. I mean, the United States, as the power in this part of the hemisphere, has not done a great job in helping other countries successfully run the countries.
And I think it's a good point in terms of, we haven't screwed around with Canada, but we have screwed around with Latin America.
Yes. But I don't think, even though there is that historical perspective, that the solution then is to open up your border and let anybody that makes it to the border come across, whether they're a good actor or a bad actor, whether they're going to be productive in society or will feed off of society. I just don't think, regardless of the historical...
I got it, but how about the media? How come the media doesn't... I'm talking the mainstream media, which is complicit in all of this, and basically has become an arm of the liberal Democratic Party. I mean, without a doubt. That's not...
Without a doubt.
It's not even close. I mean, they'll get, the BuzzFeed article, and they'll run with it for a day before they even check it out. They're hell-bent on destroying Trump, yet they never have... It was... the Republicans who flip-flopped in only 10 or 8 years. They would have the videos. They never have the videos of Schumer.
No.
Others. No. Why not?
No.
I mean, and does it scare you and I mean this in all sincerity, that we really don't have a media. There is no media.
There is no media.
So I wonder if it...
the mainstream media, and I agree wholeheartedly when Donald Trump goes after the media and calls them the fake media, and the fake media is the enemy of the people. I agree with that wholeheartedly because they are they're a national disgrace.
Yeah, they're not reporting the news. Okay, is Trump absolutely not. But just, and by the way, I was talking to Lopkin about this. It's like, I don't care. I feel both ways. Like, I can't watch like Fox better than CNN and a little more balanced, I think. But I can't watch Sean Hannity. It's just like, and how can you do that if you're liberal? Watch CNN and just get spoon fed the same crap over and over and over and over.
It's funny you bring that up because in November, my wife and I were fortunate enough. We went on a vacation to Aruba, great place. They have a local Arubian paper. And I read an article about the immigration issue at the border. This was after Thanksgiving, so late November. It was such a well-done article, Jeff. It showed this side that reported the news, was very even-handed.
I wax nostalgically as you say that because I don't see that ever.
Ever.
Ever. And wait a second. How about not that long ago? I know it's a long time ago, but not that. 20 years ago, I used to watch CNN all the time.
Yeah.
Crossfire, Larry King. It's like just a diatribe.
Absolutely.
Did Trump collude with John Wilkes Booth?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, enough already.
Yes.
I mean, you call yourself. And I think also, before we go, I think they had an amazing opportunity because MSNBC is kind of a niche player. Fox is a big niche player. They could have had the 50% of average America CNN.
Yes.
If they were just Zucker is a. Forget about being a disgrace as a person. He's a disgrace as a business person.
Sure.
Because he could have had 10 million viewers instead of 1. Just by being halfway independent.
And lived up to the most trusted name in news.
That's
Is that what they're...
something like that.
But if they could have lived up to that and used that as a marketing and delivered on that, they would be wildly successful. I couldn't agree more.
I mean, how dumb, just from a marketing, have a show with someone, the left Crossfire. That was a great show.
It was a great show.
They don't even entertain anything that would be on the. They wouldn't even. There's no. And if they do, they had some old guy. They fired him. Some has been that couldn't hold a can. He was like you worked for like Eisenhower. It was like really. They never have anyone that's really going to do anything.
So I know we're running out of time, but Jeff, we're at a studio Wesleyan, right? I mean, this is not the most upscale of accommodations, right? A local community radio. How many security doors do we go through to get into here?
You go through 2.
That at some places is tougher than the U.S. border in the South.
Well, because certain people, and by the way, the Republicans aren't without blame.
Oh, they're no angels.
The Chamber of Commerce and other Koch brothers, they want open borders too because something, callers? They want cheap labor. The Republicans, the country club Republicans, want cheap labor. Meanwhile, they have gated communities. And liberals with their gated communities like Nancy Pelosi wants voters because they've lost middle America. And essentially, both parties are throwing America down the drain for their own best interest.
I couldn't agree more.
Very good. So I thought it was a good show today.
It was such a great show.
Excellent. I liked the discussions at the beginning. In the middle, we had some very good callers. And again, you're listening to WESU 88.1 FM in Middletown. And you've been listening to the beacon of information, Carnivore Radio.
There you go.
And we'll be back next week with another exciting edition of Carnivore Radio and WESU.